We're going to create a postcard in this Photoshop exercise, and we're going to start with a new file, and we want to use the default Photoshop size of 7 inches for the width and 5 inches for the height. Notice that that sets it as landscape, not portrait. Okay, so we want landscape. White for the background color is fine, and we're going to keep the resolution at 300 pixels per inch. And this is what you should wind up with. If you look down here at the bottom left where my mouse is, you're going to notice that it says 50%. What that means is that right now the document is at 50% of its size. If you use the command plus, it zooms in more, and now you can see it went up to 66.67. Command minus zooms out, and command 0 will fit it on the screen as full as it can go. So that's where I'm going to leave it right now. Let's go ahead and save this file so that you don't forget and so that you can save as you go. It's going to be your period number underscore your last name underscore postcard. It should be saving as a Photoshop document so that you can edit it later. And we are going to start by making sure that we have some panels that we need. First, we're going to go ahead and make sure our history panel is out where we can use it. Our layers, we don't need quite as much, so I'm going to drag that down and make it smaller. We are going to need our colors and swatches, so I'll leave that open for now. So we're going to start with our swatch panel. And with our swatch panel, I want you to know that there are some swatches, there's some colors that are already populated for us. If you hover over them, notice that it will give you the name of the color. That is what makes it more useful to us than some other ones. What we are looking for right now is pastel green cyan, pastel green cyan right there. So it's kind of a bluish, greenish color. When I choose it, it becomes my foreground color. And we're going to be using some shape tools and some brushes in this exercise, and we're going to start with a shape. Now I want to point out that we're not using the marquee, we're using the actual rectangle tool, which is down here. It's completely different. When you choose this tool though, you're going to see that you have some options up here that you need to be aware of. So the first thing I want to show you is this drop down right here, shape, path, and pixels. Watch first. If I draw this rectangle as a shape, I want you to notice that, right here, it did fill and stroke of these colors as opposed to this color. So I would have to make sure that I choose it up there, and I don't actually want a stroke, so I would put that as transparent. Okay? But what that does is it actually puts a layer in here for that shape, which allows me to then move it around because it's on its own layer. Okay? I'm going to delete that. I'm going to do it again. This time, if I draw a path, what you'll see is kind of an outline of a path of a rectangle. Okay? And I don't want that, so I'm Control Z to undo that. What I do want, however, is to use pixels. What that means is it's going to put these pixels on top of the others on that layer. Okay? So I'm actually going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to start, I frequently start outside of the document. That way I make sure that I don't leave any gaps. And I'm going to go about 5/6 of the way down, 3/4, 5/6, right about there is fine. And you'll notice here that it added a green rectangle to my background layer. Okay, I can't move it around. Well, I can, but it moves the entire layer. I should correct myself. Okay, which I don't want. So that's something that you need to be aware of as we use this mode. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, docked under the rectangle, we have an ellipse tool, which is basically a circle. We want to choose pure yellow from our swatches. And again, if you hover over it, you get a tooltip that tells you what it is. Right here is pure yellow. So I'm going to select it. Now, if I just drag an ellipse, it could drag an oval, a circle, or whatever. I want to draw a perfect circle. And it's going to be a sun, and it's going to have some of it in the green and some of it in the white. In order to draw a perfect circle, I have to hold the Shift key down. So right there, I didn't draw it big enough, so I'm going to start up a little bit higher and hold the Shift key. And that's still a little small, so I'm going to move it up one more time. It's basically going to be up at the height of the sun, so maybe here. That might be better. Right about there. I'm going to let go of my mouse before I let go of the Shift so that it remains a perfect circle. Okay, and you may have to do it a couple of times like I did to make sure that you get it in the right spot and that you get it a big enough size. Because again, once you drop it, you can't move it because it's pixels on this layer. Make sure that you have it overlapping the white a little bit as well. Okay, next in the swatches, we're going to choose dark green cyan. And as it did earlier, oh, I got that one right off the bat. Dark green cyan. May take you a minute to find it. If it does, hit pause on the video so that you can move on. This time, instead of using a shape, we're going to use the brush tool. So I'm just going to go up here and choose the brush tool. Remember, the brush and the history brush are two different things. With the brush tool, we also want to set some options. Right here, we want to choose a hard round brush, okay, which is this one. I want to make the size of it 19 pixels and the hardness 100%. I want to make sure that my opacity and my flow are also set at 100%. And what I want to do is I want to start brushing what the water would be. And I'm going to start right here, almost halfway up the sun. And because this is the water, it's not going to be a straight line because we know that there are some waves in the water, so we want to make room for that. And once I draw and I like kind of the upper level of it, then I can come in here and I can increase my brush size so that I can fill in, whoops, I don't actually want to fill in that much. I want to fill in about to here, okay? And the reason I don't need to go all the way down is because I am going to put some sand down there. I do want to make sure that I do not leave any gaps, okay? So this is where you might benefit from zooming in a little bit because it will help you make sure that you fill in those gaps, okay? So it's going to be right about there. All right, so next I want to choose white. Now, if your background color is white, you could just flip it and choose that. If it's not, you know that you have your default colors right here, and then you can flip white to your foreground color. We're still with our brush tool, although this time we want to choose a different brush. And if we scroll down towards the bottom, we have one down here called Dry Brush. And it has the number 39, but what that 39 represents is the size of it. Okay, so once we select that, we are going to brush Oops, and actually we're going to have to make that bigger than 39. Actually a lot bigger. I'm going to go ahead and make that about 100. And we want to brush some water on the edge here to kind of show the breaking surf. Okay, so it's going to be right about here. And you don't want to do just a solid line because we know that the surf doesn't actually look like that. So we can click around and make some different paths about this far over. And again, jagged edges in this case are good. Okay? All right. So now, if we go back to our swatches, we want to choose a sand color. I want to point out that if you choose one of these browns down here, like right now I'm choosing pale warm brown, and if I go then to my color panel, notice that I have this spectrum here, same way as I do if I choose my color picker, where I can drag to get more of a tint or down for more of a shade, whatever the case may be. And I'm going to go back. We're still using our brush. I'm going to choose the hard round brush again. And this is going to be at 40 pixels. And I am going to cover starting here. And again, I'm making kind of like a hill, like a sand dune. Okay. And once I get that basic outline, that was maybe too much, the basic outline, because I don't want straight lines. We know the beach isn't going to be a straight line. Then I can come back and I can get a bigger brush and I can fill in underneath it. Again, don't leave any gaps. There we go. And again, all of this is on one layer, so you can't move anything. So all you can do is use your history panel to undo, or you can do more brush strokes to adjust what you're doing. With the brush tool, we are going to go in and choose the dry brush again. And I'm going to set it at about 75 pixels. You're going to have to use the color of your sand and then go into your color picker and give it some tint so it's lighter. Then, whoops, back on your brush tool, I want you to change your opacity to 70% and your flow to 50%. And we're just going to add some texture here to the sand. Okay, so you can do just some random clicks, and you can do some like click and drags in different directions. And again, it's just going to be random. And right now we're doing it with a lighter color. But as we finish this, and we can do some bigger ones and some smaller ones. They don't all have to be the same size. As we finish with the lighter ones, we are going to go in as well and do some darker ones. So I just finished with that. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to choose actually I'm going to, let me sample this color again. And then I will come in here and choose a little darker color like that. The brush, again, the same dry brush. We'll change up the size some as we go. The opacity changed to 85 and the flow 75. And again, we are creating texture with some clicks and a few clicks and drags.